How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be explaining to you exactly how I built and launched my mobile app in the iOS store for under $1,000. So for some context, over the last year or so, I've been building web apps on Lovable. So I'm using natural language. I'm not a technical individual myself, but over the last year, I've built multiple web apps, including a VC matching platform, mentorship matching platform, and calendar application. So through that process, I've learned what building with AI agents is like, how to use the natural language and things of that nature. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, and every month it is getting better and better. I started this project about 2 months ago. So at the time, my tech stack was using anything.com, and then eventually I had to hire out a developer. But as you can see, once you're in anything.com, you can prompt your agent to build new functions, features, create the application itself. There's a lot of iteration that goes throughout this process, and you'll have to do a lot of manual testing. And anything.com has a direct publish to iOS. So I got to a point where it appeared ready to publish, but as I went to publish, it got rejected for multiple reasons. And I realized that unfortunately, anything.com did not create the code that was proper for iOS, which is very strange because at the time that was the push, is that there was direct deployment to iOS. So you would imagine the code would be compatible. However, I learned through that process. And so I ended up hiring out a developer, and I did this by going to Contra. I listed a job posting with a brief overview as well as what deliverables I'm looking for. And then after I got some proposals for the job, I reviewed them, interviewed candidates, and selected a candidate. And Contra has like a 10 to 15% fee on top of whatever your budget is. So if you have a flat rate you're paying for, plan to add an additional 15% to that. So for me, $750 was about the target, and there were developers that could do it for less. I ended up going with one out of the US, and I would say the process was okay. Timeline was the biggest delay. We were about a month behind schedule. A lot of that had to do with the App Store review process. Some of the things were my own doing, some of the things the developer. But the one thing that worked in my favor is I didn't necessarily develop a wait list prior to the app, which is definitely something I would advise doing to validate the market need for it. But because of that, I didn't have upset customers or users that were waiting for an additional month. And then fortunately, when you do have a developer you're working with, as long as part of the deliverable is getting it live in the App Store, you have someone to work with and support you throughout that process. So some of the building I had to do locally, and he was able to walk me through it. But majority of the technical process going through the App Store, you want to have someone that's done it at least 3 or 4 times, I would say. Now, in about a month or so, I would expect a whole completely new process. Cloud Opus 4.6 just came out. There's the opportunity to use that for more technical individuals. Rourke is an alternative to anything.com, and so far I'm enjoying the design aspect of that. So maybe in a month or so I'll upload a completely new process that hopefully will not be outdated by then, but that will include these new agents and technologies. But for now, if there's something that you're thinking about building, I would totally advise you to go into one of these new app builders, play around with it, try to create it. For web apps, it's pretty simple. A lot of these platforms like Lovable and Base44 that are more boilerplate at times, but definitely functional. A lot of them have integrations with backend and hosting that essentially helps you not have to set up these things if you're a non-technical individual. But I'm going to continue building things, and hopefully over time I can provide some useful advice, kind of tips and things I learned throughout this process. All right, thanks for watching.